All right, folks, can you play quarterback sneak? Can you say quarterback sneak? That's what we just saw. That's what we're witnessing right now. A quarterback sneak, a sneak play by Trump, which, while other podcasts were screaming and yelling and lighting themselves on fire, I stayed cool. I stayed calm because I knew something was coming. And as I expected, something did come. Trump's Epstein revenge. Yeah, I took the Washington Journal to just write a little article about him, and I knew this was going to happen. Everyone was going to piggyback off each other, start calling them names, start jumping ship. Well, now Trump demands the release of the grand jury material. You can't help if the Southern District of New York destroyed files and evidence. You can't help that. But you can get him to release the grand jury material, and I have SGN on joining me today to talk about this. So he's coming on, and you know that we go back and forth. We have a great volley. We war game excellent together. So he's coming on my show today. He'll be on in about 10 minutes to discuss the sneak play and what else is happening. People are getting smoked out left and right within the DOJ, folks. Folks, hit the notification button. You're going to love this episode. Hit the notifications button. Hit the like, subscribe, follow me, do whatever you can do. And if you're new here, I love you. Welcome to the show. This is a big extended family. It's the Black Sheep family, and we all take care of our own here. And if you're welcome, please give a thumbs up in the chat. And if you're new here, you're welcome. Put a thumbs up in the chat. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Maybe the punches in the head are starting to show. Hey, yo. All right, folks. So anybody else find the Obama podcast with Michelle completely creepy? Because I did. Everybody needs a gay man in their life. Hey. All right. So when the lights go out on Amazon, there it is right there. And then the Mexican Mix, my mama's book on Amazon as well. And then, folks, don't forget your Trim with Nino, baby. Oh, yeah. A recent study found nearly half of patients following popular weight loss trends quit within a year, often used lower than prescribed doses, and ultimately lost weight than they were led to believe. Less weight than they were led to believe. This is why I use this secret amazing new product, and I'm obsessed with the results. It is designed to naturally support my body's own GLP-1. Better learn things about that one. It's a big thing. Production and boost levels by over 50% without drugs, prescriptions, or needles. It promotes safety and feelings of fullness. Reduces cravings, reduces my hunger, hormones, helps me lose fat instead of muscle, which we can all use, and supports healthy blood sugar levels. Summer is here. It's time to get that beach body ready. Grab yourself a bottle of GLP-1. Now to save up to 44% only at Trim with Nino, baby. TrimWithNino.com. Plus, you'll also get a free ebook titled The 3-Week Diet and 53 fat-burning smoothies and milkshakes that, yes, I drink. So, folks, get started on this. You'll love it. Got to get that beach body ready. Nobody wants to go to the beach and have to wear a T-shirt. That sucks. No way. Nah, take your shirt off. Look good. Look good for the ladies. Sancho likes to look good. All right. So, X is Nino Boxer is X. Patriotwear.com, folks. I got a lot of cool stuff there. Take a browser on the store. Tell me what you want to see. My Patriot Supply, as well as down there in the links. Get some food you can store on the shelves. When we hit this reset, you might need it for a few days, maybe a month. So get some food you could stock up on the shelf. How about XRP, huh? XRP is taking off like wildfire. I'm sure glad I bought some. I'm hearing this is just going to skyrocket in. Now that he's signed the Genius Act and the Clarity Bill or whatever it's called, boom, it's just skyrocketing. Folks, Ringside with Nino on ninoscorner.tv. Go to ninoscorner.tv, sign up. You'll be part of the family, the extended family. The next Ringside with Nino is the 31st, Thursday. And we all meet, we network, we talk, we discuss things. We make friends, plus we make friends. David has a lot of friends on there. So we make friends. We make so many friends. And we just talk, we discuss things. Also, I got 2 generals tent this month. I got Colonel Towner Watkins coming on the 24th of July just around the corner. And 107, baby. He's coming on the 30th at 5 p.m. So I got 2 generals tent this month because there's going to be so much stuff breaking. It's going to be wild. Also, ninoscorner.tv. I have Christina Urso up right now talking about the plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Remember that? Well, she's exposing it, and she's exposing it big time. That's on ninoscorner.tv. That's way too hot for YouTube. Also, folks, I'm going to have Lieutenant Douglas Deaton on talking about the Muslim takeover. And let's just say it like that. The Allah. He's going to be on talking about that takeover right there. And that's an in-person podcast with yours truly. Hey. And then I have John Stubbins. He's a first ever talking about the Adam Schiff mortgage fraud. That's up right now on ninoscorner.tv, talking all about Adam Schiff, Powell, all of them. Remember when Sean Taylor came on ninoscorner.tv and discussed this? Yeah, I do too. Folks, if you're on Facebook and on X, it will be cut. The feed will be cut when SG comes on, so get over to YouTube and just use your thumb. It's really easy. You just go like this. Hey, Facebook. Isn't it funny how lazy people are now? That's a lot of work, David. I don't want to use my thumb to go from here to there. I don't want to do that. You just move your thumb like this from there. That's it. And then you go to YouTube. That's it. All right. And then I got SGN on coming on. Oh, he's on there now. We're talking about narrative warfare. 𝗬𝗏 coming on today to talk about the breaking grand jury release, which is going to be epic. Charlie Ward's up there as well. And you might want to turn it down or turn it up, folks. Yes, I'm doing it. I'm going for it. Here we go. Coming at you live from the apocalypse, folks. Oh, yeah, baby. Tickle that ass. Yeah. All right. So here we are. Epstein revenge. Yeah. All right. President Trump called the release of grand jury material related to the investigation of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein following the publication of an article in the Wall Street Journal about a letter bearing Trump's name that was included in a 2003 birthday album for the disgraced financier. I like how they have to put that in there. The disgraced. Trump, in a Thursday night social media post, said he had directed Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. Bondi wrote on X that she was ready to ask a court Friday to unseal the grand jury transcripts. Releasing Epstein-related documents became a rallying cry for many of Trump's allies during the Biden administration and the 2024 presidential campaign. Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past, said during the campaign that he would release additional details about the investigation. So this is what he's doing right now. Last week, the Justice Department increased many in Trump's political base, incensed many in Trump's political base when it said in a memo that a thorough review had turned up and no list of Epstein's clients or any additional documents that warrant public disclosure. Far-right media figures who long alleged the government in the case of Epstein that he self-deleted in jail went nuts. They went bananas, folks. They went insane, right? Yeah, they did. We watched them all. And that's why I'm going to say, I told you, I'm sticking in it for the long game. So, Trump says he will excommunicate anyone from MAGA that continues to question his administration's bizarre handling of the Epstein case. America is in meltdown. America is in meltdown right now. Not just MAGA demanding answers, but the Democrats are now demanding the Epstein list. This is great because they're getting all the grand jury material now. It's an absolute firestorm of hell that all began when Elon Musk posted that Trump is on the list with the likes of Steve Bannon. As America pulls out their pitchforks, Trump literally turns his back on his base, is what they're saying. But not today. Not today. Now he's asking for the grand jury material, folks. Trump calls Epstein rumors a radical left hoax and condemns MAGA weaklings. For those of you that didn't understand there's strategy involved here, like I've always said on my shows. And this was a good way for Trump to smoke out a lot of the far-right influencers that were pretending to be far-right, that turned their back on him. Boy, did we see that happen in gangbusters, didn't we? It says here in this article, Donald Trump has turned his back on the MAGA base, blasting his supporters as gullible weaklings for believing the government is holding out on crucial information about the disgraced financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And what did we see happen? Everyone went in on him. Boy, did they ever. And I think he baited and switched. He basically played coy. He pulled back. He suckered him in, and hit him with the right hand. That's what he did. He baited him in. And they all took the bait, didn't they? Like piranhas. You saw, what's his name? Nick Fuentes. This is what Nick Fuentes said to Trump, by the way. I'd love to have Nick Fuentes on the show. Please come on the show, Nick. Okay, por favor. Aren't you Mexican? Fuentes. Come on, 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗃. So Nick Fuentes to Trump. Fuck you. You suck. You're fat. You're a joke. You're stupid. You're not funny. The entire thing has been a scam. We're going to look back at MAGA movement as the biggest scam in history. The liberals were right. We will see Trump as a scam artist. As I've said, agitators will be activated. There he is right there. How nice. You took the bait. Yeah. All right. To me, this is like an example of a possessed demon. And, I'll be cool. If he comes on the show, I'll be cool. I'll hear his side. I'll hear his rhetoric. I'll let him bang the trash cans all he wants. I hope he comes on. I think we should do a DNA test on everyone that turns up on the Epstein list and find out the real truth, which is they're all lizards. They're all lizard people. That's what I think will happen. Yeah. Don't worry, SG's coming on. You only have to put up with me for a little bit longer, folks. Anyway, I'm going to ask that everyone leaves Facebook and jumps on to YouTube right now. Alex will do that in about 5 minutes. Sound good, Alex?
Sounds good, Nino.
Let's give him another 5 minutes to start getting over to YouTube.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein's friends sent him body letters for the 50th birthday album. One of them was Donald Trump. So it was Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday, and Ghislaine Maxwell was preparing a special gift to mark the occasion. She turned to Epstein's family and friends. One of them was Donald Trump. Maxwell collected letters from Trump and dozens of Epstein's other associates for a 2003 birthday album, according to documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal pages from the leather-bound album. Assembled before Epstein was first arrested in 2006 are among the documents examined by Justice Department officials who investigated Epstein and Maxwell years ago. According to people who have reviewed the pages, it's unclear if any of the pages are part of the Trump administration's recent review. The president's past relationship with Epstein is at a sensitive moment. The Justice Department documents, the so-called Epstein files, and who or what is in them are at the center of the storm consuming the Trump administration. On Wednesday, after angry comments about the files are a hoax created by Democrats, President Trump lashed out at his own supporters for refusing to let the matter go. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work out very well. The letter bearing Trump's name, which was reviewed by the Journal, is body. I don't know what that means. Like others in the album, it contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker. As a pair of, what's wrong with a naked woman? I don't get that. Oh, whatever. A pair of small anecdotes, the woman's breast, and the future president's signature, and a squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. Like Sancho likes his style. The letter concludes, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." In an interview with the Journal on Tuesday evening, Trump denied writing the letter or drawing the picture. "This is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story," he said. "I never wrote a picture in my life. I never wrote a picture in my life. I draw pictures of women, he said. It's not my language. It's not my words. He told the Journal he was preparing a file to lawsuit if it published an article. I'm going to sue the Wall Street just like I sued everyone else. He said allegations that Epstein has been sexually abusing girls became public in 2006, and he was arrested that year. Epstein died in 2019 in jail after he was arrested a second time and charged with sex trafficking conspiracy. Justice Department officials didn't respond to requests for or comment or address questions about whether the Trump page and other pages of the birthday album were part of the agency's recent documents review. The FBI declined to comment. The existence of the album and the contents of the birthday letters haven't previously been reported. The album and poems, photos, and greetings from business people, academics, Epstein's former girlfriends, and childhood pals, according to the documents reviewed by the Journal and people familiar with them. Among those who submitted letters were billionaire Leslie Wexner and attorney Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz, huh? The album also contained a letter from a now deceased Harvard economist who one of Epstein's report cards called Mark Twain Junior High School. I call bullshit on this, folks. I don't know what you're seeing here, but I know what I'm looking at, and the truth is coming out. And, you know, I've said that I believe the Epstein list will be used as leverage behind the scenes. And isn't it coincidence that we now see Stephen Colbert? You know, I have a sneaking suspicion. I'm going to start using that word because Judge Brown used it. I got a sneaking suspicion. I have a suspicion that we're about to see more powerful people step down just like they did in 2020. Thousands of powerful CEOs stepped down in 2020 under the cover of what? When we were all sick and locked down, how many powerful CEOs were stepping down? Folks, you can't even count how many there were. There were thousands of people stepping down at that time if you were paying attention to what was going on behind the scenes. So could the Epstein list being used as leverage? I think it is. Remember the video with him and that kid, Colbert? Do you guys remember that, where he's tormenting that kid? That was probably one of the most disturbing videos I've ever seen of him tormenting that child in a video. And I know a lot of you have seen it. So CBS to cancel the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, citing financial decision. Yeah, sure. TV's ongoing problems with late night have come for Stephen Colbert, with CBS announcing Thursday that it plans to end his Late Show after the next TV season, citing a financial decision. Now, I'm just stating the obvious here. I think something's going on. Now, that's just an opinion. That's just my opinion. The maneuver, which ends years of original late-night programming at CBS that started when the network lured David Letterman from NBC in 1993, comes as the economics of wee hours TV have begun to accelerate, and media companies growing wary of the high price tags involved in producing the shows, while the young viewers they try to attract watch more via digital video. Now, I believe that, but let's see if something happens to, I don't know, Jimmy Kimmel. Let's see if he steps down too. That would be interesting. Now, I'm just, like I said, this is just a sneaking suspicion. It's just a sneaking suspicion. I love that word now, by the way. Those two words, sneaking suspicion. That's what I think it is. Breaking, U.S. House officially passes Genius Act, crypto stable bill. Unbelievable. Breaking, the U.S. House officially passes Crypto Clarity Act and Genius Act. House passes Trump $9 billion Doge cuts package and another legislative win for the president. Big things happening. Let's bring SG Ann on the show. SG, how's it going, my man?
Going well, Nino. Glad to be here.
So we just had a show on ninoscorner.tv where we kind of war gamed the false narratives and everything that's happening right now. Do you think Trump basically baited him in? I mean, I've been told that the Southern District of New York did destroy all, allegedly destroyed a lot of evidence. That's why they weren't able to get anything. But we already have it all, right, SG?
Indeed, we do. And I think what we're seeing with the Epstein, situation, Nino, is just another example of this very unusual warfare campaign, this call and response shadow war structure that's going on, what we would say behind the scenes or in the background. In other words, in the day-to-day machinations that are not seen by the general public inside the administration. And you're having, this exposure that has begun really in a massive way of the judicial side of things, going back to, early January of this year and the initial injunctions and actions that were taken against things that President Trump was doing, the things that he was elected as president to do. And one of those things, of course, ties back to more clarity behind certain criminality and corruptive activities, much like the Epstein situation that a lot of people have been, suspicious of and dialed in on researching for a very long time. And it's worth remembering that, in that entirety of that particular example, the entirety of that agenda, the Epstein agenda itself, there's a lot more than just the trafficking and smuggling of human beings and children. You've got a lot of other, sort of heavy hitting crimes or high levels of criminality that we can't really name directly here on this particular platform, but they go back to things like, the events of 2020. They go back to things like various countermeasures that were rolled out. They go back to things like religious worship, and things of that nature. And so when we look at the broad landscape, we look at things like the corruption behind the Crossfire Hurricane probe and all of the situations that occurred in the first Trump administration and how the FBI was involved in a great deal of that. We have to be very aware that Epstein tied into a lot of that beyond just the human and child smuggling, but primarily through the human and child smuggling. And so as we go through this process, you very likely have some active investigative activities that are still happening in the present day and time. And so there is difficulty in disclosing out and out, evidence-based productions from the government that they may be using in an ongoing investigation, but you can put out things like testimony, witness reports, various materials that were submitted to grand juries, things of that nature, much of which will paint a very clear picture in and of its own right and sort of becomes that list.
So during this time when everyone was turning on Trump, we saw a lot of podcasters lighting themselves on fire. During this time, they smoked out another mole, another anti-ICE mole, didn't they, SG?
They did. So we've had it reported just in the last 24 hours. I think Revolver News was one of the ones to hit down on the story and do a good piece on it, that we've got an individual inside the Trump administration. I forget the lady's name. I think it's Cynthia, who is a sort of a mid-level individual inside the US DOJ. And she is married to a hyper-radical leftist who is the main software developer for the app called IceBlock. And so IceBlock is an app that is engaged to not only dox and track and trace ICE agents in real time using geolocational data and citizen crowdsourced reports, but it also sends simultaneous alerts to subscribed cell phone devices like Android and iOS and things like that of what those most recent developments are. It's a real-time hack. It's basically a real-time circumventory action against federal law, and it places a lot of individuals in the crosshairs of breaking federal law, however intentional or not that may be. And I find it very interesting that in this time of this massive narrative warfare surrounding Epstein and surrounding a number of other issues as well, we have this grand exposure being reported in the last 24 hours, which will cause a massive change in public perception of the DOJ's integrity. And so we're sort of seeing that as well. This is a multi-dimensional operation. I've made no secret on programs like yours that I see a lot of what's happening in the world as a call and response, intentional action to drive us towards a predetermined or a pre-isolated vision of the future in order to break humanity free from a certain amount of slavery. And in this process, I think you're seeing that multidimensional operation play out across the entirety of the judiciary, across the entirety of the Trump administration itself. It's literally a smoke out of that next wave of the rats that were able to last through the Biden administration years.
Okay, and what's important as well is what people need to know also is Russiagate continues to break. Trump's intel czar Tulsi Gabbard plans to declassify a trove of new Russiagate docs as early as Thursday, including emails and other records from Brennan's rigged ICA and Crossfire Hurricane Fusion cell that reveal new bombshells about the corrupt collusion of the CIA and FBI. And as all that's happening, Maureen Comey, federal prosecutor in Sean Diddy Combs and Ghislaine Maxwell cases, is fired. So the smoking out process is happening, and Russiagate is breaking. People need to understand this. Russiagate is breaking, and I'm hearing we could have arrests as soon as fall, maybe even earlier. Are you hearing the same thing, SG?
I'm hearing August, September timeframe on that, based on ongoing investigative processes.
Well, I didn't want to really name a month, but you did, so all right, you can own that.
and I want to qualify that for the audience also, that when you hear things like that, you have to acknowledge that progress is based on how much the public appetite is willing to accept that next step, right? This is literally a we the people operation in real time. And as we drive the public's appetite in a specific direction, Nino, for a lot of different arenas, we win the culture war long term, because that public perception and that public appetite will change instructive behavior and education as we go forward. And so as we look at what's happening with Crossfire Hurricane and how that's going to boomerang back around, I think we can expect to see a lot of that go up to very high levels, including the Democrat National Convention of 2015, 2016. I don't think Mr. Seth R. is off the table with that particular discussion. I think we need to keep in mind that there's a lot that's going to tie back also to a certain very famous Australian journalist who was let out of prison not that long ago. I think you're going to see some public statements or some willingness to make some remarks coming from that pulpit. So there's this massive slingshot that has been primed literally by our enemies, and it was primed during a period of time where they were attempting to overthrow and destroy, these great United States of America through a lot of different levels of criminality and dimensions. And now we have control of when the slingshot actually is let loose and what direction it gets to point. And so the other side is now squarely in the crosshairs. And I'm looking at this year to begin that exposure process, and an escalating exposure process as we go through 2026 and into 2027.
And if you look at all the syndicates and media out there, what they're putting out there right now is they're bashing Trump. They found this to be the best opportunity, the right time. They found it as the timing is ripe for them to jump on the bandwagon and bash Trump. In this article here, which is, I think, exactly what Trump wanted, by the way. I think this is exactly what he wanted. And then in this article here, it says Trump to pardon Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell family appears to Trump amid battle over Epstein files, amid an explosive fight on Capitol Hill over whether the Trump administration should release records related to Jeffrey Epstein. The family of the disgraced financier's convicted right-hand woman is saying she did not receive a fair trial, and Trump could be considering a pardon. There's this couldn't be further from the truth, but this is the stuff they're putting out there to make Trump look implicated or guilty. Correct, SG?
Indeed it is. And I think what you've seen quite literally is a piece of cheese so sweet that those rats just could not stay off of it, to keep with that sort of metaphor, right? I'm not calling anyone specifically that. I'm just sort of painting the metaphoric picture there. But when we look at something like the narrative warfare behind the Epstein equation and the Epstein situation, we have to go all of the way back to early June with Mr. Musk. We saw this operation really kick off publicly, or I should say this operational phase kick off publicly right after Musk left the Trump administration. And, Musk's audience and reach is such around the world, and especially here domestically at home, that anything he chooses to put out and sort of ignite in some way, shape, or form is going to make the rounds in a pretty significant way. And there's not much more explosive than saying what he said about the current sitting president. And he later retracted that a few days later. I think it was 3 or 4 days later. It seemed, contrite and publicly acceptable. And I think that was the entire point of that initial phase of this. So now we have the other side, those patriots that are still gaslit all of the way to the ends of the cliff, so to speak, seeing what's coming out pertaining to this particular issue. At the same time, we have saboteurs and counteragents on our side of the fence, not only in the alt media space, but even in the mainstream media space in some regards still, that have to be given something deep enough to sink their teeth into. And so this is an issue that not only brings more of what we would call our very dead asleep brothers and sisters into the fold, but it also provides that bait that is just irresistible to those individuals that claim to be in the fold, who are really not working on behalf of the fold, but on behalf of their own interests.
Right, and you even have former VP Mike Pence. The time has come. I mean, he even took the bait to release all the Epstein files, unless he's being told to say this. But they really feel like this is their opportunity right now to strike and hit Donald Trump hard. And I think this was all a setup, man. And I've been looking at that. I've been looking at this just like that for a while now. Former Vice President Mike Pence has called for the Trump administration to release all the Epstein files. Pence made the statement during an interview with CBS News correspondent Major Garrett. When he was asked his thoughts on the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein files, Pence stated, "I think the time has come for the administration to release all of the files regarding Jeffrey Epstein investigation and prosecution." They really believe that Trump is implicated and guilty, and I believe they took the bait. And even Dan Bongino, Epstein files uproar put spotlight on Dan Bongino, public uproar and internal fighting in the Trump administration over the handling of the documents related to disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein has put a spotlight on FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino and his importance to members of President Trump's base. Bongino has been at the center of the debate over the Epstein files after the Justice Department essentially closed the case in a joint memo with the FBI. The FBI director has clashed with Attorney General Pam Bondi over the issue and reportedly weighing resigning. How much of this is theater, SG?
I think you've got a great deal of it as theatrics, and how much of it is genuine and organic versus how much of it is pre-planned and intentional. I think that's forever going to be a speculation, not one that I would feel comfortable corroborating from where I'm sitting. But fundamentally, some of it is pre-planned and pre-intentional. And as you look at what happened with Bondi in the entirety of this maelstrom, we saw a very significant individual tying back to the Comey family removed from their post essentially, and virtually no public outcry or displeasure has been expressed about that because no serious amount of attention has been on that. And so as we look at what's happening right now, we have to keep in mind that Epstein's money, Epstein's activities, Epstein's blackmail goes all of the way back to the mid-1990s here in the United States. A great deal of that ties into the Clinton camp. A great deal of that between those two entities, controlled a huge amount of Washington, D.C. for a number of decades, really, I guess 2.5 decades in its current iteration, going up to about 2016, 2017. And so this unseating process and this exposure process with this particular issue is not only going to be massive, but it has an overarching effect of needing the public's of acquiring the public's attention, so that other areas and other arenas can be dealt with in the process with relative grace and ease. And the quicker that we can move through things like firing individuals like Comey or handling problematic agents inside agency that are destroying evidence and being caught on camera falsifying records and things of that nature, the faster that we can focus our efforts on doing that, the quicker that this entire process turns out real truth and transparency for the American people.
So let me ask you what you think Elon Musk's role is here, because he sure was chummy with Trump. And then now all of a sudden he's become Trump's nemesis. Elon Musk asked Grok who went to Epstein Island and when. So he asked Grok, the artificial intelligence, this. There was a leak of cell phone tracking data on that island. Can you correlate that with the individuals who visited that island? Assess the probability of those who flew on Epstein's plane, despite having planes of their own, did so purely to save gas. Flight logs show Bill Clinton visited Little St. James 12 plus times in 95 to 2003. Prince Andrew multiple times. Alan Dershowitz, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker. Trump flew on the plane 7 times, but not to island costs. So it looks like Elon is really going full after Trump, and you got to wonder, is this all part of the theater? Because I can't see. We've always said, my guess, I've always said Elon has been a black hat that kind of switched over to the white, or a gray hat, now working for the white hats. I believe that Elon is part of this operation. And I think what's happening right now with Elon is part of the script. That's just my hunch. It's a sneaking suspicion. What do you think?
I think it absolutely is. And we have to keep in mind that in this entire maelstrom, in this process where everyone's attention is focused on these, singular 2 or 3 issues, Epstein and a couple of others, we've got activities happening in the background, like Grok being awarded a multi-$100 million contract for the Department of Defense. And this is the same Department of Defense that telegraphed a very fascinating message that unfortunately we can't quote here on this platform today on the side of a certain rail car leading up to the June 14th parade of 2025 in Washington, D.C., which itself ended up being, sort of a non-starter for the mainstream media's prepared narrative that we were militarizing the United States. So, looking at what we've got going on right now, we are moving that needle forward in ways that count significantly. You asked about Elon's role specifically. I think Elon's role is multifold and multidimensional, but one of his roles is to function as a delivery vessel, quite literally, an initial bombshell, someone who is controversial enough, but yet, publicly well known and well off enough that there's a certain amount of impregnability that comes with being in that particular orbit and in that particular position. And at the same time, his platform and now his very highly valued, I think it's over a multi-billion-dollar valued estimation at this point, the 𝗳𝗍𝗍 platform is now being prepared for inclusion across government services. So if we surmise for a moment, and this is a bit of a supposition, and I want to highlight that for the audience. It's not predicated on fancy things, but it is a supposition fundamentally. But if we surmise for a moment that Elon is working, as you cited, on behalf of his own self-interest, but for the greater good of the collective, because that is in line with his own self-interests, then I think we can say application of his platform, his reach, and his technology is going to allow for highlighting and real-time monitoring of things like trafficking activities, other illicit criminality that occurs inside direct messages or inside burner profiles on social media that are tied back to anonymous IP addresses. And so when you incorporate a higher level of visibility into that, and you're simultaneously acting as a public delivery system for more than just physicality and infrastructure, you also have narrative warfare at play. I think Elon fits the bill quite nicely for a high-level controversial figure that would be able to essentially act like a Tony Stark in the present day and time.
So let's jump to financial just for a second, SG. It says here Trump denies that he plans to fire Powell. It's highly unlikely. President Donald Trump denied that he plans to fire Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, contradicting a senior White House official. House Republicans said Trump spoke about the plan Tuesday night. Trump added that firing Powell was highly unlikely. So a lot of people are like, he's reneging on that. He's turning his back on MAGA. He's not going to, blah, 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 blah. But hold on, folks. 1 second. Big but here. Jerome Powell criminally referred for alleged perjury about $2.5 billion building renovation, mortgage fraud. All of them are falling into this stuff. On Thursday, chairman of the board of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, Bill Plute, said federal chair Jerome Powell may be criminally referred to the Justice Department for alleged perjury about the $2.5 billion building renovation plan. So I kind of see this as Trump being like, I don't need to fire him because all these allegations are hitting these guys now, so they're doing the dirty work for Trump. Brilliant operation, wouldn't you say, SG?
It absolutely is. And then this is setting up, again, another example of preparing the narrative for a major shift and a major change in how we conduct government and how we conduct business here at the level of government in the United States of America. It's not enshrined in the Federal Reserve Act that the president can fire the chairman, except for cases of, I think it's like wanton corruption or something like that. It's some sort of overarching broad language there. But fundamentally, it's never been done before. And as we look at the history of the Federal Reserve relative to the history of executive administrations going back to as early as the 1920s, what you see is a great deal of overlap of interest inside both of those pulpits, and the interest comes from both sides of the coin. And so that's how we end up with the R versus D situation that we now have created in behind the Beltway today. But we have to acknowledge that situation has to change. That entire dynamic has to be fundamentally altered at the political level, at the nation state level here in the United States, or we can't say that we're truly liberating the constitutional republic. So what are we now doing? We're now setting it up to destroy the credibility of the Federal Reserve Chairman in the minds and hearts of the American people, at the same time painting that individual as, sort of a bureaucratic criminal, a high a white-collar criminal style, type, and I think we're seeing that prepared. And I think you're also going to see a very interesting legislative battle come into place with the People's House and the Senate with respect to what can actually be done about the Federal Reserve, because I don't believe that the U.S. DOJ actually has the ability to prosecute some of these criminal actions that this referral has now been sent over to. And I'm not a legal scholar. I would have to go and research that a little bit more, but I've not seen any of that in my readings, to this present day in time. So looking at what's happening, Nino, this is very much a situation, in my opinion, of preparing the American people and also the physical levers of government for a significant change in how they operate. Perhaps we see codification come of this from the Congress, repealing the Federal Reserve Act. Perhaps we see an augmentation added to the Federal Reserve Act, placing the entirety of the Fed's activities underneath We the People oversight and purview. Perhaps we see inclusion of presidential authority in something like that. These are speculative sort of opinions on my part, but I could see it playing out in a very interesting and fascinating way. And President Trump is the perfect individual to go up against a supposedly untouchable pulpit here on the domestic territory of the United States.
Someone just put in the comments. I just happened to watch it go by. They said Donald Trump is the devil, my loves. Okay, so the devil just ended the fentanyl. President Donald J. Trump officially signs the HALT Fentanyl Act into law, permanently classifying fentanyl-related substances as a Schedule I drug under the Controlled Substances Act. This bill will save lives. So a Schedule I, how many years in jail does that get you? 5 to 10, something like that? I'd like someone put it in the comments. What does a Schedule I drug get you in jail if you're convicted of possessing or distributing a Schedule I drug? I'm wondering what it would get you. I'm going to guess 10 years. Could be a life sentence, 5 to 10 years at least. So put that in the comments. I'm curious to know. Also, I don't know if you saw this, but did you get to watch the Barack Obama brainwashing segment? Or I don't know what the hell this was, but talking about how every young boy needs a gay man in their life. Did you see this, SG?
I saw that quote from it. I've not seen the full length of the podcast. I heard the entire thing was relatively cringeworthy, but I'm not surprised to see that sort of ridiculousness coming from it, Nino.
I mean, tell us who you are without telling us. I mean, that's basic. I'm trying to figure that. That's still in me. I'm still putting that on the back burner. Are they part of it? Have they now been taken in and are they exposing themselves on purpose? I can't understand this. It was cringeworthy to watch, but the only thing I can think of is that they're letting people know who they are. Is that part of this whole thing? What do you think, SG?
Well, I want to preface my answer to the question by referring the audience for context here to go and look at the short clip of footage. You can find it probably on various X accounts out there, or perhaps some Telegram channels, of President Obama at the George H.W. Bush funeral.
Be careful here. I know when he called her. Yeah. Be careful with YouTube on that one.
Exactly, and so you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
And the head movement says it all in that particular clip. And so as we look at what's happening now, I think we can say from a researching side and from an anon side that it looks very much like we've got some controlled exposure happening here. And when I say controlled exposure, I'm sort of using that in a lot of different usages and terminologies, right? We've got a certain amount of physical control exerted by what I would surmise as an operation happening in the background. And I think you've got a submission agreement in the works right now, quite literally. At the same time, you've also got narrative control that has to play into that. What's the time where the exposure is going to be best received? When and how far has the public come along, and when is the right moment to take that exposure to the next level? We saw just a few weeks back, maybe it's been a couple of months ago now, Michelle Obama come out on a podcast. I forget who the podcast was with. It was an African-American gentleman. And she made the comment, being a father of someone who's transgender, that means a lot to me as a black man. And so, as we look at what's happening now, right. And so as we look at what's happening now with the clip that you referenced a moment ago from this most recent podcast, some of the content from former President Obama during his presidency at various speeches and diplomatic and dignitary events, where he actually had a little bit of a slip up in those speeches, of course, only
mini slip up.
one time, right? Exactly. And so, looking at the present day and time, I think that you're seeing an escalation in the public's willingness to accept something outside of what they've always understood to be true, right? We look back at major events like September 11th in our history. We look back at things like, President Kennedy. We look at things like World War II, and we're learning a great deal about new dynamics and a lot of new dimensions that play into a lot of those things that completely change how we understand our history and our context, certainly change how we feel towards our government, towards our institutions, towards organizations and individuals. And so as we push the public forward in that process of expanding that willingness and expanding that broad space to go into areas that they did not believe were possible before, and accept that maybe these new possibilities are real, then we also simultaneously unlock the potential of humanity. Because if these things are real, then what else is also real, and what can we really truly do and accomplish as beings and as civilizations here in the world? So this is a beautiful time to watch these types of things play out, because they add to that journey, they fuel that fire. And I think you're seeing indications based on, the content from this most recent podcast, which I heard was just absolutely hard to watch, that you're seeing, a major next step being unleashed on those individuals still over the far left of the other side of the line, who would be productive and helpful members of society if they could get out from behind their own brainwashed traumas.
What do you think about other things happening behind the scenes? I mean, how does Area 51 catch on fire? That's a big question I have. Area 51 catches fire, folks. Massive fire seen for hundreds of miles. What the hell is going on? That tells me the black projects had to be getting taken down too, right, SG?
Well, this is an area that I have to be really careful on. So we'll just say that with respect to that background operation, that shadow war that has been playing out, and there's a lot of different levels to it, up to and including secret technologies, off book sites, black budget sites, military installations all over the place in places that you would never believe were possible. These types of things are happening and have been happening for a number of years now. And I think you're now seeing the publicly visible evidence. And we've been watching a lot of that over time, but really in a bigger way now with this current Trump administration, we're seeing more publicly visible evidence that surface level infrastructure of arenas that have typically been antagonistic and at enmity with humanity, at war with humanity, they themselves are at prosecuting a war of some kind that they appear to be losing. And so when you look at situations like what happened with the hurricane disasters, several of them over the last 4 to 5 years, when you look at all of the train derailments and parties that were exposed and indicted, there's still indictments going on at the county level and state level for some of those activities with respect to covering those up. East Palestine was an area that had an indictment with respect to that derailment about 6-8 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. If you look at those arenas that are playing out, this really is evidence that what's happening in the background and what's happening in the foreground not only are different, but they are eventually going to have to converge towards a beneficial point that will unlock humanity's future in a really powerful way.
Someone in here says animals are acting strange in the Yellowstone Park, I think is what they said. Damn, that's crazy. Animals always can see it first, folks. We're going to take super chat questions right now. Let's get those super chat questions in. Alex, go ahead and start throwing them up, my man. All right, Vanessa Sanchez. Hi, do you think that maybe the floodwaters could contain some type of germ warfare? Anything's possible at this point. What do you think, SG? Be careful on this one, SG.
I was going to say I'll have to answer this relatively vaguely because of the platform. But, when you look at certain aerosols, for example, and then you look at the groundwater and you begin to draw some conclusions based on the biological activity of people in the communities and, animals in the communities and woodland animals and things like that in the days and weeks that follow. I think the question is based on a serious plausibility.
Also a bunch of cats. I see people saying that it's a hoax at Yellowstone. Maybe it is. I don't know. I just now saw it on the chat, but also allegedly, I don't know. I didn't look into this at all, so maybe somebody else did, but a bunch of cats are like leaving certain areas in Georgia and Florida and going to Miami. Maybe they heard the drugs are good. I don't know. All right, next, Lou J. Thank you so much, Lou J. Kelly Panetsky, super sticker. Thank you so much, Kelly. Robert Kennedy, man, you still coming on my shows, huh? You're in the chat a lot, Robert Kennedy. Watch, it's really him. He's a fan. We're ascending, my friend. Thank you. I know we are. Mark Vane, thank you so much, Mark. Wow, big contribution there. This is getting super exciting. I'm convinced that we are in for total reset, and Trump and the White Hats are trying to soften the blow. It has to get bad in order to implement the new system. Let's fucking go. Ninos Corner.tv is fired. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mark. Donald Strickland, just to say thank you for bringing all the perspectives. I try my best, man. Thank you so much, Donald. Mark Vane again, big one again. Thank you, Mark Vane. The absent list is all doctored and altered by the DS. This is why they are pushing so hard for it. It is not time for the list yet. Mark my words, it will circle back. Well, look, the boomerang. God bless you and your family, champ, Alex and Mods. Thank you. Well, I mean, the grand jury material being released is a big move. Don't you think so, OSG?
It absolutely is. And you have to remember that for a grand jury to proceed with, criminal indictments of a serious nature like that, Nino, there has to be a pretty copious amount of evidence that makes a lot of logical sense from the vantage point of just the average onlooker in order for that, to move forward, right? Grand juries supposedly, are supposed to be drawn from the relative municipalities and communities that the charges are being brought in. And so many times you're talking about intersecting with at least one or two, relatively ordinary men and women, right, that have to be a part of those procedures. And so those documents and those transcripts and those testimonies and the evidence that are presented in those types of meetings and initial impanelings oftentimes are just as damning, if not more so, than actual submitted things like ledgers and Excel spreadsheets and databases.
All right, next question. Kathleen Splittoser. Trump is a genius. I love his strength and plan. All right, thank you, Kathleen. Preston Jones, thanks, Nino SG. Have a great weekend. You too, Preston. Elise 777. People are running around with their heads on fire. Mine, however, is not, because I come here for truth and insight. Thank you. Happy belated 5.5 years, 8 years in Florida jail on pill in car. One pill in car. 8. Okay. So you answered two things here. Happy belated 5.5 years, 5.5 years, 8 years in Florida jail. One pill in a car. So one fentanyl pill in a car gets you 8 years in jail. Holy cow. Man. Boy, am I, there's multiple reasons I'm glad I'm clean now, folks, because my friends, I never carried drugs and stuff, but I had a lot of friends doing that, and I'd be in the car with them and stuff, man, and you don't think about that stuff. Can you imagine getting pulled over and it's your friend's shit and you're going to jail for, oh, my Lord, that's scary. Wow. Boy, am I glad. That's another reason I'm glad I'm sober now, folks, right there. Because I was crazy. One time I threw a cop into the windshield. I'm crazy. Oh, will Bono ever be implicated in anything criminal? You know what's really crazy? Let me just say this. When I was talking to a friend on the phone the other day, and he was talking to another friend, was like all three of us are on a call, and he was telling a story. He's like, dude, you want to hear the craziest story you'll ever hear in your life? And the craziest story he ever heard in his life was about me. And you lived a really crazy life when the craziest story this guy's ever told about anybody in their life is about you, and you don't even remember it. That's my life. Will Bono ever be implicated in anything criminal? I don't know. Who knows? I sat next to that guy in church. Our knees were touching. I was at the St. Patrick's Church here in El Paso. I sat right next to the guy. All right, next question. So Finkel is Einhorn, and I know. Oh, righty. Oh, my God, that's good. So Finkel is Einhorn, and Einhorn is Finkel. And then the music comes on. What was the music? Alex, you remember the music of that? What was it?
No, I can't remember.
What was it? That real dark. Someone put it in the chat. What was the music on that? When he went in the shower and started scrubbing his mouth. What was it, man? What was the song? Somebody put The Crying Game. There it is. That was it. That's right. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like, that's just all just so socially accepted now. And like you would see like Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs, like he'd be normal now.
Yeah.
Put the lotion in the basket. That guy.
I know, there's tons of people. There's tons of people like that. Turns out.
I know. Like you just walk the street and see him everywhere.
Yeah.
Like little did we know they were all hiding people in their basement back then. Gosh. All right. Let's get to the next question.
That was the last one.
All right. So
no,
SG.
Sorry, there is one. A couple more. Just
all
sticker.
right. Beverly Adams, thank you. Super sticker. Grace Anderson, thank you. Yeah, man. So SG, you want to stick around on my what the fuck news real quick?
I've got about a 5 to 6 minute timer left, my friend.
All right, go ahead and split. I'll see you the next day or so because we're going to be doing that segment together.
Sounds good. God bless, Nino. Everyone stay safe today. Have a wonderful day.
All right, my man. Later, SG. All right, folks. In what the fuck news, man with metal neck chain sucked into MRI on Long Island. What? I've had a lot of MRIs, and I've always wondered about this. A man is in critical condition after being sucked into an MRI machine when he walked into a room where a scan was in progress while wearing a metal chain. I wish they had video on this because I would love to see this video. I can't imagine this happening, but let's just go with it. Authorities say, according to investigators, officers responding to a 911 call for help at the Nassau Open MRI on Old Curry Road in Westbury around 4:30 p.m. Wednesday were told that he was 61 years old. Well, a 61-year-old man had entered an MRI room where a scan was underway. They said he was wearing a large metallic chain around his neck, causing him to be drawn into the machine. That, police said, resulted in a medical episode. No other details were immediately provided. The man was taken to a hospital for treatment. It's not clear if he was a patient at the MRI center at the time of the incident or why he was even in the room. I don't know if you guys believe this. The investigation is ongoing. You know how you go to an MRI and they're like, take off your bracelets, take off your neck chain, don't have any keys, don't even have them in the room. I guess this is why you'll get sucked into the machine. Just like you get sucked into a jet engine of an airplane. That's what I'm picturing here. I can't see this happening. Me personally, I call bullshit. The investigation is ongoing. MRI machines use intensely powerful magnets that can draw in metal objects, making it unsafe to bring metal of any kind near the machine. The magnetic field is always on, and even small objects can turn into projectiles. Projectiles? Injuries can range from minor burns and cuts to severe wounds. No details were released of the nature of the injuries to the man on Wednesday's incident. So if it can do that, I mean, how safe really are these things that are examining our body or x-raying our body? I don't know. That's scary, and I've had a lot of these. I don't know, folks. I have metal in my hand. And not one. I have metal in my back, and not once, and I've been in MRI since then, and not once did I get sucked into the machine. So what about if you have metal in your body? Because I do. I have a lot of metal in my body.
It's probably titanium, which is not.
Oh, that's what it is. Hey, yeah. Yo. So what? So then what? You know, it doesn't go. I've always wondered that it doesn't go off in airports either. I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird.
Yeah. I guess it's like not. I don't know. It's not magnetized, I don't think, and doesn't show up the same way. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I had fun today, didn't you?
Yeah, this was a good show.
Usually we take calls on Fridays, but man, I just can't stop people from dropping censored. You know, it's hard, man. I get nervous. And nobody ever challenges me. Everyone just comes on and just like, I would like someone to really kick me in the balls hard. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah,
that would be fun. And you have Ringside with Nino too, if people want to, really.
Yeah. Go to Ringside with Nino. It's on fire right now, man. We are having a good time. Everyone's networking with each other. If you're lonely, come on, come join us. Join Mr. David. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a great place. Share your stories, share some of your experiences over the last few years, things that might have happened since 2020, and how you're dealing with it, and anything there that might be, maybe too hot for YouTube or other things. We can, it's a community space. So,
and then we got the general's tent. Juan's coming on that. Colonel Towner Watkins. I got 2 generals in the general's tent this month. And then I got a special surprise for everybody. The in-person Alex that I did. Holy shit, dude. It was good. It was really good with Lieutenant Douglas Deaton This is going to be epic, and it's because okay, so I can't talk about I can't talk about them because they're a protected class, but this guy lets it all go. Lieutenant Douglas Deaton. That's going to be on ninoscorner.tv next week, and folks, you don't want to miss that. You do not want to miss that. That guy, man, he investigated the whole Plano thing in Dallas with the takeover, which is happening, and. Dude, it connects to Dearborn, connects to different cities, connects to New York, all of it. All of it's connected.
Yeah.
Complete takeover.
I'm sure. Yeah. We need to be aware of this stuff. It's just, we need to be aware.
You have to. And, you could tell the guy was like, he's a brave guy. He's a really brave guy. Great podcast. It's my second in-person podcast that I've ever done. So it's my second one. I got more lined up. I got 3 more lined up. So I'm really starting to make those steps now, kind of getting out of the virtual world a little bit and doing the in-person stuff. And, a lot of times I'm the one that has to travel, but, whatever it is, so be it,
Yeah. It's an investment, and it's part of a great way to just keep growing and, providing more insight and things for people to check out and listen to and pay attention to.
So let me know, folks, do y'all enjoy our podcast? I hope you do. I try to bring pertinent, like, real material out for everybody. I hope I'm doing a good job. And I do my best. I do my absolute best. And Alex, man, you're a great sidekick, man. You're part of the family now. Really appreciate you. I think we got a good team now, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, happy to be here, and it's really great, man. We got a good thing going. So
and we have a huge family, dude. Like, everyone that's involved here, man. Like, wow. I mean, everybody. Like, I have to say this again. Thank you, everybody, because you helped me staying sober. That's it's hard to stay. How many times, like, with what's going on with my parents and my family, I want to go home. I want to go hit the bar. I just want to go forget everything.
Yeah, this is a great just alternative and way to stay grounded, and
that's all I can do, man. Take it one day at a time. That's what they say. I don't ever think I was like an alcoholic per se. Like, I wasn't waking up in the morning having shots and drinking, but I was a binge drinker. I'd go out and get fucking hammered and
blackout drunk.
Yeah, blackout and just
people
are telling me through a window. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
but
apologizing to people all week long. You're like, what did I say? They're like, oh, fuck, yeah.
Dude, it's just too much. How many DUIs? I got 2 DUIs, 1 I dismissed, so really 3. I mean, I was a wreck. I was just I was an unguided missile, just going everywhere. And with my size, like, I'd walk into a bar and be like, oh shit, the big guy's here, and he's stumbling. And I'd be like swaying and shit. People would be catching me. I was the life of the party. All right, folks. Well, that's it today. Alex, thank you so much. Well, maybe we'll do something this weekend.
Yeah. Let me know. That'd be fun. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. All right, folks. I'm out of here. And the new heavyweight champion of podcasting and the black sheep of broadcasting, folks. Later. Hope you enjoyed the show.